Hi everyone. We don't have a moderator, unfortunately, because whoever had to take that role, unfortunately, couldn't be with us today. So we decided to improvise a fireside chat, and I'm pretty sure we'll make it interesting. So without further ado, I'd like my fellow panelists to introduce themselves, and then I'll introduce myself. So we start with Anna.
Hello everyone, my name is Anna Agu and I'm a co-founder and partner of Flex Law Office. We are an international law firm with a head office in Tallinn, Estonia, and we mainly work with the international clients all over the world from the Fintech and crypto space.
Hello everyone, my name is Gil Solomon from Israel. I own Gil Solomon and Company. Ranked one of the top law firms in blockchain space in Israel. We also do a lot of international work, working with clients all around the world, mainly from Israel though. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for sitting in. Thank you for listening via stream.
Hi, my name is Joe. I'm a partner at WH Partners, which is one of Malta's leading law firms, particularly when it comes to tech law. We're very much into gaming law as well as fintech. In fact, we're ranked both in fintech and in gaming law as a leading law firm, both on Legal 500 and Chambers. I am personally a former regulator. I was the Chief Regulatory Officer of the Gaming Authority for 6 years before I joined WH Partners, but that's a very long time ago. So let's start with regulation, right? Our topic is regulation, and we're three lawyers here, and regulation is our life. So I always say, and maybe it's a bit funny coming from a former regulator, that regulation is a necessary evil sometimes. So unfortunately, regulation does stifle a bit innovation, does create more burdens for businesses in this industry, but at the same time, without regulation, the business, ironically, will not grow enough. It cannot grow as it can grow in a regulated environment. So, and plus in today's world, I can't see anything, especially when it has to do with financial matters, to be done without any regulation. Do you agree with me? And I would also like Anna to explain to us what's happening with Estonia in the coming weeks.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, I absolutely agree. If we are talking about the regulation, then regulation is always behind. So innovation is going forward and regulation is some steps behind. But it is also needed for the market players and for the consumers to have the absolutely clear understanding about the possibilities and rules for both parties. So if we are coming back to Estonia, you might know that Estonia was the first country in the European Union who started in 2017 to regulate virtual assets and virtual asset service providers. We had some amendments in our regulation. In 2018, we had over 2,000 of virtual currency service providers in Estonia. Now this number is around 500 companies. And since 15 of March 2022, so some days ago, our regulation has been changed. So there is a lot of amendments for the VASPs, and companies who are having the license already in Estonia need to comply with these changes until 15 of June 2022. And if we are coming to what is actually changing for them, this is the absolutely new level of the regulation. The regulation now is more similar to payment institution licensing requirements or investment company licensing requirements. For example, if we're talking about the capital, there will be a capital requirements for the companies, depending on which kind of the business field they are picking up. 100,000 euros or 250,000 euros. So this is a capital requirement. So companies should have the internal, external audit. Companies should have an office in Estonia, compliance officer in Estonia. Companies should have members of the board who are having the needed knowledge and education in this field. So the requirements are pretty same, and also the documental requirements, description of the technology measures of the company, security, protection of the customers, etc., etc. That means that actually for maybe startups who are just testing their model, it will be difficult to enter the market if the requirements are higher. But for
let's go to Gil because we don't have much time left.
Yes, I can pass to Gil.
So just one small point about what I was saying. Yes, and in fact, one disadvantage that Malta always had is that its regulation was like that from day one. And obviously many operators went to Estonia because it had a lighter touch regulation. Now our law is basically identical to MiCA. If you look at MiCA and the Maltese law, it's practically the same, especially for VASPs. When it comes to issuers, ours is much tougher. But I believe that now the Estonian one is in line with MiCA, correct?
Yes, this is important. So when we have drafted this regulation, we take MiCA as an example. So we had a view that we need to already amend our regulation according to the future changes in the Europe. Once MiCA will be enforced, Estonian companies already is having all these requirements are met by the companies.
So Gil, I would like from you what you think about my first comment that regulation is a necessary evil, and also I would like to learn more from you about your views on NFTs and security tokens.
Okay, so first of all, I think that your comment is 100% true. And what's important in regulation is not just the fact that there is a regulation, is that it's up to date and quick, especially around blockchain where things are developing so fast. We need regulation to be up to date and to be quick and to be as responsive as possible to what happens in the market, because the problem is right now that the market and the companies and the ventures that are in the blockchain space are really developing in an amazing pace. And what happens is that, well, the regulators don't respond fast enough. And if the regulators don't respond, then the banks don't respond. Then there's no way into getting money into the bank and exchange unless you do something that is a little bit revolutionary. Now, in terms of NFTs and securities, right now we're seeing a really big boom in terms of what happens in the market of NFTs. And right now we have an amazing project at work in our firm where we're going the entire distance with a company that has a revolutionary product, nothing less, that mixes a security into an NFT. And it's called INFS, Independent Non-Fungible Security. We have the entire range of advantages provided by an NFT, which is a work of art and represents a solid asset in the world, backed up by solid assets that back it up, and is also acting as security, providing you profit shares of the company. And right now we're going the entire distance through the SEC, which will start real soon, and we're going to set up an ATS, an alternative trading system in the United States for that. And this is going a long distance. This is a regulatory course that will take at least a year and a half, if we're good and if FINRA will act fast enough. So that's probably linking me to my first comment, and it's taking a lot of time to get it through the door. And by then, it will probably still be relevant because we're first through the door. But the market needs it faster.
I agree. Unfortunately, again, as a former regulator, most of the times the regulator is more advanced than the law, and usually you speak to the regulator, he understands you, and they would be open to giving you more attention and to be more flexible, but they are limited most of the times by the law, unfortunately, and that in itself is very unfortunate. So what we had created, for example, in the gaming industry in Malta, is a tiered style of legislation. So you have the main legislation, which is basic framework in the main law. Then you have subsidiary legislation, which is also sort of, it beefs up the framework. And then most of the technical stuff that needs to be changed constantly is in directives issued by the authority. And in the financial sector, they did the same with what they call the rule book. In fact, the Malta Financial Services Authority has a rule book with the technical details.
Also, by the way, in the UK and in Israel, it was thought about, in the UK it was done. In Israel, it's being talked about right now, creating a sandbox. A sandbox is a good thing to have if the regulator is innovative enough.
Yes, in fact, I believe that sandbox. But then there's also that saying that sandboxes are for kids, while real regulation is for adults, right? So sandboxes is for startups.
If it gets money through the bank, I'll be a kid, don't worry.
Now, any last comments from your end? I would like to understand from you whether you believe that the trick in regulating this industry and new industries is balance.
Well, if we are coming back to the previous question, in Estonia it's much easier because we can change regulation soon. We are very fast and very developed country. It is not a problem to change the regulation within 3 to 6 months in Estonia. So if we see that market conditions need for the new requirements, for example, or we are having some problems with the frameworks, with the regulator practice, then we can change it easily. And this is what is actually has been done before in Estonia. And there is pluses and minuses because it's difficult to adapt, but it's good that we can react fast. So, and if we are coming back to your last question, I believe the balance is always between the regulation and innovation, and there is very important that regulator is having this innovational view of the business as well, and always the key is communication. If the market players...
One last comment from your end, because we already exceeded the time.
Can you frame me? Frame me, give me a comment.
Well, about balance, the importance of finding the right balance in regulation.
Obviously, there's also always needs to be a balance. I mean, regulatory oversight and scrutiny can live up to, only such a level where it's balanced with the needs of the market. If it exceeds its level of, how can I say, vitality, then it's too much and it's killing business. It kills business. We can't have regulations so tough that it kills business.
I agree. So, I'm sorry we had to do it in a very fast way, this panel, but we didn't have much time. Thank you very much for your attention. I really thank my fellow panelists here for improvising this, and enjoy the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.